Hey guys. So some of you guys aren't going to like me for this, whoever this word is for, but I'm going to be obedient, guys, because I was called by God to it this morning. But for many of you guys, the Lord is asking you to fast for the last 3 days of this month, starting today. So today's the 28th. Let me see what else we have. I'm sorry, 29th, 30th, and 31st. 29th, 30th, and 31st. He's asking you to fast for the last 3 days of this month. Okay. And allow him to lead you how in whatever fast he's calling you to do. But for me, he's called me to an Esther fast. Okay. An Esther fast for the last 3 days of this month. Okay. He's allowing me to have water, to have tea. I was able to have a little protein shake this morning because I take vitamins. So he approved that. I can't take vitamins with just water. I will throw up. And I take a lot of vitamins. So I had a little protein shake, like the pre-made protein shakes this morning, and I took my vitamins with it, but that's it. The rest of the day will be water as well as teas. Okay. So he's calling me to a fast that's similar to the Esther's fast. No food at all. That will be the only shake that I have is in the morning for today and the next 2 days because I have to take vitamins. But if I didn't have to take vitamins, it would be strictly water and teas. That's it. But yeah, so that is something he put on my heart this morning. And it was from a dream that he gave me. Okay, it was from a dream that he gave me in the wee hours of this morning, and I'm going to get into that. And also from a dream that he gave me in 2021. So I'm going to be obedient and just give you guys what the Lord put on my heart. If he's calling you to an Esther fast, to a dry fast, to a water fast, to a 3-day Daniel fast, to a whatever that fast looks like for you. Okay, but he's considering this as the Esther fast. So whatever type of fast he puts you on for these 3 days, he's looking at this as the Esther fast because this is for those that are called for such a time as this, and your for such a time as this is right now. You're being called. When Esther was put in her queen position to bring it home. Okay, she was put into her queen position to save the Jews. And not only did her yes to God, to do what he was asking her to do matter for her, but it also mattered for her family line because it says in Esther 4:14 NCV version, if you keep quiet at this time, someone else will help and save the Jewish people, but you and your father's family will all die. So her life wasn't the only one at stake, okay? And neither is yours. What God has promised you is not the only thing that's at stake. Okay, God puts us in place to produce generational blessings. Okay, but you and your father's family will all die. And who knows, you may have been chosen queen for just such a time as this. And God is so strategic because last night I could not sleep. Right? I could not sleep. I was tossing and turning, and I looked at the clock and it was 9:11 p.m. And I said, okay. I grabbed my my Bible study book, and I just opened the Bible. I just opened my Bible study to whatever page it was going to fall on. I was just telling God to speak. It was 9:11, and I felt God speaking urgently at that time. So when I opened my Bible, it opened to this page, day 212 of this Bible study book. And it's titled For Such a Time as This. And the minute my eyes hit that, I knew God was speaking because 212 is a number he gave me back in 2021 as well. And he gave it to me from, it means the turning of a wheel. I haven't looked it up, so let me get it. Give me a second. In Hebrew, it means ophan or ophon, a wheel, right? And it's like a turning of the wheel. And when the Lord gave me 212 back in 2021, he said the wheels will turn. The wheels will turn. The direction of things will turn. It's not what you think, it will turn. And he also gave me back then, and I'll never forget this moment in my living room with hardly no furniture, guys. It also means, in the Greek Strong's Concordance, it means to display arrogancy, to be boastful, right? To be boastful and arrogant. And the Lord had me look up 212 in the Strong's and the Hebrew. So on one hand, it means to be boastful and arrogant. The word is al-adzonai, to be boastful and arrogant. And then 212, on the other hand, means a will, right? A will. And what the Lord was telling me in that moment, I remember, again, this was in 2021. And I had just gotten off the phone with my ex-husband at the time, and he was just being rude, right? And the Lord spoke to me and gave me 212, and he said, there'll be a turning of the wheel, a turning of this arrogancy, a turning. Is arrogancy a word, Lord? I know you're speaking, because is that a word, y'all? What the, I don't even know. What's arrogancy? Is that a word? That is not a word. I don't know why it just came out as arrogancy. It'll be a turning of his. Sometimes when the Lord is speaking to me, guys, I'm like, what? Like, huh? Arrogancy. Arrogancy. Okay, God, elaborate further on that. I don't know. But it'll be a turning of the wheel, a turning of the arrogant person that he is, a turning of the boastful person that he is. And it was funny because at this time, 2021, I was still getting to know God. I really was just walking into my calling. I don't think I had a channel at this time when God was teaching me this. And I was just like, okay, you know. So when I opened the Bible study book to 212, I immediately remembered that it meant a wheel, the turning of a wheel. And I also remembered that it meant boastful and arrogant. But majority of what I felt from the 212 was a turning of the wheel, a wheel turning, right? And it's titled For Such a Time as This. And that's the key verse that I just read to you guys. It's Esther 4:14. And the Lord began to speak about for such a time as this, right? And there was an urgency on it, because keep in mind, it was 9/11 when I began to read. And as I kept reading, it's like that minute lasted forever, because I read Esther 4:14 in this Bible study page, and it was still 9/11. So I even wrote it in the Bible study page, the time that it was. And I just knew God was speaking. So I went to sleep, and I woke up in the middle of it was the wee hours of the morning, and I had to use the restroom. So as I'm walking to the restroom, I have to walk out of my room. Well, I don't have to walk out of my room because there's 2 doors to the bathroom, but I walk out of my room normally. And I usually always look at this time on the stove because it's positioned towards like my room door. So as I walk out of the room to the bathroom, I look at the stove when I woke up, and it said 4:14 a.m. And I had to double take. I was just like, what? Because I knew I had just read Esther 4:14 before I went to bed. And I knew the Lord was speaking to me through that. So I kind of like closed my eyes a bit. I'm like, am I awake? And I looked, and sure enough, the time was 4:14 on the clock. And I said, I hear you, God. And all I did was laugh. I went to the restroom, went to my room. I went back to sleep. And when I went back to sleep, I had a dream. And in the dream, there was a Black man. I was at my family's house. We were in a big old house. It was a bunch of us. And there was a Black man that pulled up, and I knew he was there to steal. He was there to steal. And the person he was there to steal was my little niece, Delilah, right? So I ran to my mom to tell her that this man was out there, and she grabbed her gun and went outside, and he ended up kidnapping my mom, right? He ended up taking my mom instead of Delilah, right? So I was telling everybody in the house what had happened. So we called the police, the FBI is in the house, and I'm not going to break down every aspect of the dream to you guys, just what you need. But we called the FBI, and I remember cops being there, right? And I went to the bathroom, and I remember the bathroom in the house wasn't to my cleanliness liking, right? I'm a very clean person. And I remember the bathroom wasn't to my liking. And I was like, man, how is everybody using this bathroom? And it's not that clean, right? And I remember having to go to the bathroom, not pee, but I had to poop. Sorry, TMI, I got to give you guys, I'm not the person who creates the dreams, but I had to poop. And I remember saying, I'm just going to sit on the toilet and go because I really have to go. And as I sat on the toilet and I'm going, like making myself, I was just like, regardless of how this bathroom looks and how I feel, I'm just going to release myself. That was my thought. I'm just going, regardless of how dirty it is and how it looks, I'm just going to release, right? And as I'm sitting on the toilet, I look on the wall of the bathroom and it says, prayer and fasting changes things. There's a picture on the bathroom wall. And it says, I don't remember what the picture was. I feel like it was a high-heeled shoe on the picture. Like I'm seeing like high-heeled shoes, like, you know, like high heels that a woman, like cute high heels. And it said, prayer and fasting changes things. And I remember looking at it and I was like, okay. And I went out of the bathroom, and throughout the dream, I kept saying, God has called me for such a time as this. God has called me for such a time as this. And I knew I had to like stand up and protect my family, like protect what's near and dear to me. Like I had to rise up. And I was saying, God has called me for such a time as this. And that was the end of the dream. Okay. Again, I'm not going to break down this dream in its entirety because it's not, I'm only going to give you what God is putting on my heart to give you. Again, some of you guys, God is calling you to fast for the last 3 days of this month, starting today. Doesn't matter if you already had breakfast or coffee or whatever, fine. Start fasting now. If God nudges on your heart and this word is for you, start fasting and make your fasting days a day of fasting and prayer. Begin to lift up your family members, lift up your marriage, lift up your career, lift up these things that God has promised you for such a time as this moment in. Okay, whatever that means for you, and our journeys are different. If it is your marriage, lift it up. If it is your prodigal spouse, lift him or her up. Whatever it is in this 3 days, lift it up. If it's something, the things that you desire, the things that God has promised you, the things that you want to excel in, lift it up. In these 3 days, my face is itching. I'm not telling everybody to fast, okay? I'll never tell everybody to fast. Whenever you guys hear me present a fast, I tell people, take it to God and see if this is something he wants you to do, because it may not be something he wants you to do. You always want your fastings to be led by God, not by man. Because when you're just following the crowd and feeling like you have to fast, 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail at that fast. So take this to God. If it's for you, I'm pretty sure you're hearing him speak to you as you're hearing me speak his words, okay? Throughout this 3 days, again, even if you've already had breakfast or whatever, it's fine. This is still your first day of fasting. Start right now. Don't put anything else in your mouth. However God leads you to fast, do it. You can still start, okay? And I felt that very strongly. Even if you've eaten something already, it's okay. Today is your first day of the fast. If God is calling you to it, just start. We're fasting today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, the last 3 days of the month. 2/12. There's a turning of the wheel, guys. And it's so much I want to say, but so much that does not need to be said right now. But the name Delilah means delicate or weakened, right? And what the Lord had expressed to me yesterday when he brought me back to an older dream is that Satan is trying to get promises to fail when they're in their delicate or weakened stages, okay? And God, he help me get this out, Lord, because I feel like I'm like really antsy or something. But Satan is trying to take out promises and things in their most delicate and weakened state. Things that Delilah is a baby. She's 1 year old. She's already born. She's a gift from God, right? She's already here. But even as those promises are at your door or around the corner, some of them are very delicate and still weakened in certain areas, right? It may not be delivered to you perfectly. So there's still a work that God has to do. But even in the midst of that, Satan wants to take that thing out. He's already upset that it's been born. Again, Delilah, my little niece, is a little 1 year old. She just turned 1. Satan still wants to take that thing out in its most delicate and weakened stage. Okay, he's trying to take it out. even though it's already been born. The promise is already there. It's been birthed, but it still may be delicate and weak in certain areas. He still wants to take it out, okay? He still wants to take it out. And I'm going to skip parts because, again, I'm not explaining this whole dream to you guys. But even as I'm in the family house and I'm in the bathroom, right? I'm in the bathroom. And the bathroom often represents a place of release, a place of letting go. It can also represent a person's heart. And we've spoken about that before in previous dreams that the Lord has given me in terms of my ex-husband's heart or someone else's heart to show that the heart was dirty, it was unclean, right? So a bathroom can represent a place of release, of repentance, of letting go of the heaviness, the heavy weights, regardless of what in the dream, even though it was dirty in the bathroom, or it wasn't dirty, it just wasn't to my liking. I was having a hard time going, wondering how everyone else is going, but I knew I had to release this heavy weight. I knew I had to release this, I don't want to say defiled, but yeah, in a sense, like this, this weight, this thing attached to me it's filth. Release it. I knew I had to release it, even if the circumstances around me weren't ideal. And I hope you guys are catching this spiritually. There's a release happening, a letting go. The weight is coming off, even if it doesn't look like it's in a place that's ideal. In the dream, God gave me strength to release, regardless of the circumstances. And I look on the wall and there's this high-heeled shoe and it said prayer and fasting changes things. So for you, the Lord is saying to release this weight, to be able to let go, to change the surroundings of this heart, to change the hearts, right? To change the heart, to change the circumstances, to be able to release this weight and let go of the heaviness. Prayer, pray, and fast, because things are going to change. And these last 3 days of this month, like Esther went into her fasting for 3 days before she approached the king to do what she needed to do. But she was called for such a time as this. She was called for such a time as this, and it wasn't just about her. She wasn't put into a queen position for beauty or for her to just enjoy the riches and stuff. It was bigger than her. It was about saving souls. That is the same reason we are called, to save souls. Whether you're standing in the gap for your family, a spouse, a friend, whoever, you're called to save souls. It's bigger than you. But yeah, you're stepping into this promise because you were called for such a time as this. And I pray that this is hitting who it's for. This is so hard for me to get it out because I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. But Satan is trying to take things in their infant stage when they're delicate and innocent and weak and they can't fight for themselves. Y'all better catch this spiritually. I'm not saying he's coming to steal your baby, but he's coming to steal your baby. It's already being birthed. Well, if God says it's gonna be, you're gonna birth a certain thing, you're going to. But Satan is always looking to kill, steal, and destroy. He makes you feel uncomfortable in situations that aren't ideal. He makes you feel like you're stuck, like that's what he comes to do. He's a liar. So the Lord is saying prayer and fasting changes things. In 3 days, a lot is going to change for a lot of you guys. The dynamics of things is going to change. There's a turning of the wheel, a changing of those arrogant and boastful hearts. Prayer and fasting. The Lord is saying fast for whoever this is for. This is not just a marriage word. This goes in several different directions. This can be for your job, for your location that God is sending you to, for your health. This can be for so many different things, but God has called you for such a time as this. Step up. It's urgent. 911. Again, I was up 9/11. I look at my clock. I open this Bible, Esther 4:14. I knew God was speaking. I wake up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, look at the stove, 4:14, go to sleep. I have this dream. God is speaking loudly, guys. Loudly. So again, start your fast today. If you've already eaten something, it's okay. It's not counting against you. Just start wherever you are. These last 3 days of the month. These last 3 days of the month. And one thing the Lord brought me back to was in 2021, when I was really close with my ex-husband's auntie. And she's very prophetic. Like, she's called. She doesn't use her calling to its fullness, but she's very called. And I was talking to her early in the morning, and she was telling me she had just had a dream, and in the dream, Satan was trying to no, in the dream, she saw me big and pregnant. And she was telling me about the dream she had. We were on the phone. She's like, I saw you big and pregnant, and I knew you were almost due. And then she said, as she was telling me the dream, the Lord began to speak to her and give her visions about the dream as she's on the phone with me. And she began speaking in tongues, and she's like, oh no, she's like, Satan is trying to have you birth a stillborn baby. Like, she's like, I see stillbirth. And God was just speaking to her and giving her vision. So she began to pray and cover me over a stillbirth baby, right? And stillbirth babies, it's kind of like a miscarriage, but different. Okay, miscarriage, the baby is normally 20 weeks or less. But with a stillbirth, a stillborn baby, the baby is normally 28 weeks or more, right? So normally a stillbirth baby is fully developed. It's just born dead. Okay, it's born dead. And I know this because my sister, her first child, Matthew, was a stillborn baby. And she actually, she carried him to term. So he was 9 months. Like, when she realized he was, when he passed away, she was in her 9th month. So it was like a week before she was due to give birth. And she didn't feel him moving, and she went to the hospital, and sure enough, her baby was not alive. So when she had to, they call it a stillborn baby because they still make you give birth to the baby, whether you're going to do it by C-section or push the baby out. The baby, even though the baby's dead in your womb, they still make you give birth to that stillborn. The baby is born still. So basically, they're just saying it's a dead baby, but you still have to give birth to that baby. A lot of miscarriages, you sit on the toilet, it's like early stages. You can blood clot that baby out. But with a stillborn baby, they are normally fully developed. They're normally full babies, arms, legs, head, eye, everything. They're just born dead. And I pray you guys are catching this spiritually, but my sister's first child, Matthew, was stillborn. And the doctor still made her deliver the baby, like push him out, right? Still made her push him out. And he was the most beautiful baby. And he wasn't missing any parts of him. He was just stillborn, but he was a fully developed baby. She was due to give birth, I think a week or maybe 2 weeks before she went to the hospital and figured out he wasn't breathing. But when she pushed him out, he was fully developed. Fully developed. They didn't even have a reason as to what happened. Cord wasn't wrapped around his neck, nothing. Fully developed. And he passed away. And that was so heartbroken for our family because that was like her first child. Everything was prepared for that baby's arrival. And the baby never got to use any of it. His name was Matthew. And anyway, so a stillborn baby is 20 weeks or older, 28 weeks, 28 weeks or older. Miscarriage is normally 20 weeks or less. Stillborn, 28 weeks or older, right? So the Lord had me look up the number 28 in the Strong's Concordance. And the Strong's Hebrew Concordance, the number 28 means Hagar. Okay, God is very strategic. Hagar. Hagar was, past tense, was Sarah's servant. She was the servant that Sarah came up with a plan to have Abraham sleep with in order to get the promise God promised them. In order for Sarah to have a child, she had Abraham sleep with Hagar. Hagar is the number 28 in the Strong's Hebrew Concordance. God is strategic. But even though Abraham would impregnate Hagar, Ishmael would not be the promise. The promise still stood. But even in that moment, that was Satan trying to take away a promise. And it's almost like, Lord, help me explain this. Sometimes, you guys, I can't stand when God has me explain stuff to other people because I feel like it's so difficult for me sometimes. So bear with me. But that's an example of how Satan tried to kill something while it's still in the womb. God's promise was his promise. But here he is putting this thought into Sarah's head of another option she can take, right? Another option she can take, because there's no way it's going to happen the way God said it's going to happen. You're too old. Your husband's too old, but here's your servant. Go ahead and have a baby, have her carry a baby for you. And that could be the promise, right? Satan tries to stillborn things. He tries to make them stillborn, make promises stillborn. He wants to kill them while they're still in the womb. He wants to kill the promises while they are still in the womb, but yet fully developed, because when God speaks a thing, it is already done. And I pray you guys are catching this, because I'm getting aggravated trying to explain it. And sorry, not sorry, this walk is not easy. And sometimes it is aggravating. But the Lord is saying, do not accept a Hagar moment. It's Satan's tactics. Ishmael is not the promise. It's still Isaac. And if God promised it to you, he's going to deliver. Last 3 days for such a time as this, rise up. Rise up. Esther's life was not the only life at stake. Again, it says, help. Someone else will help and save the Jewish people, but you and your father's family will die. So not just Esther was about, not just Esther who would perish if she was disobedient, but so would her father's family. So there were other people divinely connected to her that would feel the wrath from her disobedience. Don't allow other people to feel God's wrath from your disobedience. You're here to plant generational blessings in your family line, not curses. So anyways, if God is calling you to a fast, to do this fast, jump on it. If not, that's okay too. But I just wanted to be obedient and get on here and give this to you guys. And just, I'm tired, guys. I can't even get this out. I feel like my spirit is so just jumpy and antsy. So I'm going to read Isaiah 35, verse 5-6 NIV. Then will the eyes of the blind be open and the ears of the deaf be unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. There's a turning of a wheel, guys. But fast if God is leading you to fast. If not, that's fine too. Again, I'm just being obedient, guys. But that's the word. I love you and have a great day. Bye.